Everybody stop distracting the teacher. You know, I had classes where we would do that intentionally so that we could get out of the class without any homework. We'd just distract the teacher until the hour was gone, and then we were done. All right, I'll get into it, and I'll let you talk for a while, and then I'll look at chat. So Gideon, Judges chapter 7. So early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all his men camped at the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel would boast against me. My own strength has saved me. Now announce to the army, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead." So 22,000 men left, while 10,000 remained. I think that's a fascinating thing. The first thing that's done to narrow down the army is voluntary desertion. Think about that. Just get the people who don't want to be here, who are afraid. If you're afraid, leave. You're not going to be helpful to us. You're going to be petrified. You're going to possibly be a detriment. You're going to not protect the person next to you. We'd be much better off with less people than a bunch of people who are likely going to flee. And then if watching those people flee is going to cause the rest of people to flee. Yeah, so I find that fascinating. If you're just afraid, go ahead and hit the road. You're out of here. But the Lord said to Gideon, "There is still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will thin them out for you there. If I say this one shall go with you, he will go. But if I say this one shall not go with you, he shall not go." So Gideon took his men down to the water. There the Lord told him, "Separate those who lap the water with their tongue as a dog laps from those who kneel down to drink." 300 of them drank from cupped hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. Okay, so this is just, I think, the most bizarre thing. So they bring water in their hands, they cup the water, and they're licking it up like a dog. Those are the soldiers I want. Great qualification. They drink their water like a dog. Oh my goodness, those must be ferocious warriors. Those other people that get down on their knees, please. Who wants to drink on their knees? Bring the water up and lap it like a dog. That's what I'm looking for. 300 out of the 10,000. Yeah, the rest of you get to go. I just want to hear the conversation that those guys are having. You ever hear of such a thing? We were drinking water on our knees like we always do. He says, "Nah, you're not good enough for me. Get out of here. You don't drink like a dog." So they left. Well, do you have a thought on why the lapping is better? Go ahead and share. I have some thoughts, but I'm not sure. OPSEC. Operational security, yeah. Yeah, I thought the same thing. If you're here, you're able to look around and be operationally aware. But even at that, on your knees, you could be looking around. And until it says cupped in the hand, my thought lapping like a dog is your face is all the way down in the water, but it actually sounds like the others are just all the way down sipping. I don't know. They could have cupped it and sipped instead of lapping. I'm not entirely sure. The description is a little, in my mind, vague, and I think that's okay. But I think there's possibility that, yeah, there was a distinction between them. I'm just saying it's a funny way to decide that. Yeah, I understood in the hands, yeah. But we'll continue. I just wanted to point out it seems a very odd way to get your qualifications. So, The Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept 300 who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. So the food got left and the trumpets got left of those who left. So I don't know if that means they have a total of 10,000. That would be a lot of trumpets, but certainly enough food for more people. Now the camp of Midian lay below him in the valley, so he has the high ground. During the night, the Lord said to Gideon, get up, go down against the camp, because I am going to give it to your hands. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah, and listen to what they are saying. Afterwards, you will be encouraged to attack the camp. So he and Purah Purah, his servant, went down to the outposts of the camp. The Midianites, the Amalekites, and all the other eastern peoples had settled in the valley, thick as locusts. Their camels could no more be counted than the sands of the seashore. Gideon arrived just as a man was telling a friend his dream. I had a dream, he was saying. A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. His friend responded, this can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands. What a strange dream. So a round loaf of barley bread rolled in the camp, hit the tent fell over. That's got to be Gideon. That seems like a great leap of interpretation. But maybe not. So he gets told, if you're afraid, go down, listen, you'll hear confirmation that you're going to win. So he goes down, here's his dream. So Gideon arrived just as a man was telling his friend a dream. Oh, sorry, I read that. It didn't scroll far enough. When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed down and worshipped. I love that response. He returned to the camp of Israel and called out, get up, the Lord has given the Midianite camp into your hands. Divide the 300 men into 3 companies. He placed trumpets and empty jars in the hands of all of them with torches inside. So the torches are inside the empty jars. Watch, he told them, follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all who are with me blow our trumpets, then from all around the camp blow yours and shout for the Lord and for Gideon. So, interesting. He has a plan of attack. Not sure if this is his own plan. If it was given to him by the Lord, it doesn't say either way. But his plan is bringing in some element of surprise. Certainly being there at night, but also the way he is doing this. And he is spreading them all out. Not usually or always the way that you want to have a tactic of dividing your men up to be easier to pick off. You want them closer together. But he has a plan that's going about. So Gideon, also wanted to point out, they're to shout for the Lord and for Gideon. Why does he have them shout for Gideon? Is this a self-centered thing? I don't know. However, the man in the camp was fearful of Gideon. So if this guy is spreading the news about who it is by declaring for Gideon, clarifies to those who are in the camp who's attacking. It's the Israelites. It will create more fear within. So, well, that could be, not entirely sure. Could be, well, he's elevating himself. I don't know. But certainly a possibility within there. So Gideon and the 100 men and with him reached the edge of the camp, at the beginning of the middle watch. So there's 3 watches in the night. Just after they had changed the guard, they blew their trumpets, broke the jars that were in their hands. The 3 companies blew the trumpets and smashed the jars, grasped the torch in their left hand, and holding in their right hands the trumpet they were to blow, they shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." While each man held his position around the camp, all the Midianites ran, crying out as they fled. So you got 300 men surrounding the camp. They're smashing jars, which is going to make a loud noise. They're suddenly light flashing all of these torches. They're blowing trumpets, lots more noise. And then they're shouting. So there's all kinds. I mean, just think about it. You're woken up in the middle of the night and stuff is going on, how chaotic it can be. So they are fleeing from this. When the 300 trumpets sounded, the Lord caused the men throughout the camp to turn on each other with their swords. The army fled to Beth Shittah toward Zerorah, as far as the border of Abel Meholah near Tobeth. Israelites from Naphtali, Asher, and Manasseh were called out, and they pursued the Midianites. Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim, saying, "Come down against the Midianites and seize the waters of the Jordan ahead of them as far as Beth-barah." So all the men of Ephraim were called out, and they seized the waters of the Jordan as far as Beth-barah. They also captured 2 of the Midianites' leaders, Oreb and Zeeb. They killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb and Zeeb at the winepress of Zeeb, probably named because that's where they were killed. They pursued the Midianites and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeeb to Gideon, who was by the Jordan. All right, so I'll just pause there. So, so they have the element of surprise. They totally stun them. They are confused. And it says the Lord caused them to run throughout the camp and turn the sword on each other. In the middle of the night, it's dark. They were confused. They couldn't tell who was who. Somebody's there. They're attacking one another as they're fleeing. They're just trying to escape with their lives as they flee. Now, beyond the 300, other tribes are called in to help finish the battle. And then we have the leaders are taken. So that's what we got going on there. So I'll jump and check if there's anything in chat. So Trombone says, wonder if there is a metaphorical value of these examples in this culture. Yeah, there could be. There could be something as far as the metaphor goes with the drinking like a dog that doesn't entirely translate or carry over into modern culture. That's a good thought there. I don't usually run and go into commentaries because I want us to just dig into it on the surface and see what we see. At ukulele, I checked a bit. I don't think the theory of evolution contradicts the Bible. I like Reasonable Faith and William Lane Craig. He is great at defending theism, but I have doubts that Christian God is true and Jesus is the only begotten Son. Well, Eugene, just hang out and listen and explore the Bible. That's one way to find out for yourself what it does say and not relying on others to tell you what it says. And if you have doubts, lots of Christians at different times in their life do have doubts. We are doing Job, and Job is a great place talking about how whether or not bad things mean you're a bad person or not, and his friends and acute accusations. So there's a lot of dealing with doubts and faith in Job. And as far as evolution, it depends on what you mean by it and what aspects of it. But this is not a topic that I have a great ability to explain, so it won't be one I would tackle. I'd certainly be interested in engaging in it, but I'm not an expert in that. So, okay. You read the book of Job last week? Oh, fantastic. Oh, Job is a great book. We're working our way through that. So we'll be in Job again on Thursday. So glad to have you if you were stick around for that. And we're reading through Matthew on Monday. So we're all over the place. So you'll get a whole bunch of stuff if you hang out here. But glad you're here today, either way. Thank you for being here, friend. So now we're moving on from the battle, and we're going to focus on a little bit other aspects. So now the Ephraimites asked Gideon. Now, if you don't remember all of these names, that's okay. Some of these I should point out if you don't know, when he's asking the Israelites from Naphtali, Asher, Manasseh, those are some of the 12 tribes. Here, Ephraim is also one of the 12 tribes. So if you aren't familiar with those names, those are some of the 12 tribes of Israel. So there are other groups of Israelites, and they're divided into 12 tribes. So that's what's going on there. Why have you treated us like this? Why didn't you call us when you went to fight Midian? And they challenged him vigorously. So they're mad they didn't get to come join the fight. But he answered them, what have I accomplished compared to you? Aren't the gleanings of Ephraim's grapes better than the full grapes harvest of Abiezer? God gave Oreb and Zeeb, the Midianite leaders, into your hands. What was I able to do compared to you? At this, their resentment against him subsided. So he points out, I attacked, they ran to you. You have the victory of killing the kings. You get the claim of victory. He points out, yeah, you got to do your part. Gideon and his 300 men, exhausted yet keeping up the pursuit, came to the Jordan and crossed it. He said to the men of Succoth, give my troops some bread. They are worn out, and I am still pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian. But the officials at Succoth said, do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna in your possession? Why should we give bread to your troops? Then Gideon replied, just for that, when the Lord has given Zebah and Zalmunna into my hands, I will tear your flesh with desert thorns and briars. Ooh. From there he went up to Peniel and made the same request of them, but they answered as the men of Succoth had. So he said to the men of Peniel, when I return in triumph, I will tear down this tower. Seems a kind of vengeful guy. Now, Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor with a force of about 15,000 men, all that were left of the army of the eastern peoples. 120,000 swordsmen had fallen. Gideon went up by the route of the nomads east of Nobah and Jogbehah and attacked the unsuspecting army. Zebah and Zalmunna, the two kings of Midian, fled, but he pursued them and captured them, routing their entire army. Gideon, son of Joash, then returned from the battle by the pass of Heres. He caught a young man of Succoth and questioned him, and the young man wrote down for him the names of 77 officials in Succoth, the elders of the town. Then Gideon came and said to the men of Succoth, here are Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me and said, do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna in your possession? Why should we give bread to your exhausted men? He took the elders of the town and taught the men of Succoth a lesson by punishing them with desert thorns and briars. He also pulled down the tower of Peniel and killed the men of the tower. It's a weird story, just saying. But they should, in essence, they didn't lend aid. He wants them to understand that you're going to continue to be oppressed by people from the outside if you don't help our own people when we're in pursuit of those who are oppressing us. So valid, but still seems a little vengeful, just saying. Then he asked Zeba and Zalmunna, "What kind of men did you kill at Tabor?" "Men like you," they answered, "each one with the bearing of a prince." Gideon replied, "Those were my brothers, the son of my mother. As surely as the Lord lives, if you had spared their lives, I would not kill you." Turning to Jether, his oldest son, he said, "Kill them." But Jether did not draw the sword because he was only a boy and was afraid. Zeba and Zalmunna said, "Come, do it yourself. As is the man, so is his strength." So Gideon stepped forward and killed them and took the ornament off their camels' necks. Okay, so establishing justice for their crimes of killing. Weird thing, he offers it to his son to do the honors. His son is afraid to do it. By the way, it is his oldest son, so he didn't, grab the youngest son. But he turns to him to allow him to do it. He doesn't do it, and they say, "Well, do it yourself." So he does. So he brings justice to them for the crimes that they had of killing his family and his mother. We could look at it as vengeance, but as being a judge, it would not. It would have been established, being carried out by law, would be the thought there. So, bunch of chat going on. Let me see if there's just a side conversation going on back and forth, or something to engage in. Good point there. Yeah, some of things are hard to read, and there is older Hebrew, and you wouldn't necessarily know this, but the Hebrew doesn't start with vowels when it's a language that's created. It later, some consonants are used as vowels. That gets added, and then there's a part where there are vowels that are added later on. So at times, the phrasing of older sections of Scripture do have some more difficult things to read, and it shows in the English too. So, Bible Project, yeah, they've got some decent stuff. What they, I think, do a good job is an overview of the themes of what a book is going to say. So definitely a good intro to things. I would say I agree with most of what they say, just like I agree with most things, but not everything. So, Bible Hub for parallel translations. That's a good point too. I'm reading in the NIV because it's a readable version. It's not the most modern version, but it's a readable version. Some versions, if you're not familiar with the these and thous or other things, because we don't speak the King's English anymore, they're not as easy. Oh, you're interested in historical aspects of Jesus. Shoot, who is it? He is coming out with a book that, I can't think of his name. Shoot, that's going to bug me now. I'll have to, if I think of it, I'll put it. He has a 4-volume set that is coming out where he is looking at evidence for Jesus and the resurrection. Now, evidence is different than proof, so I want to make that clear. He's looking at evidence. The book should be published soon. I just saw an interview with him. He's been working on this for 10 years, and it's evidence from between 30 and 36 AD. So the earliest evidence is what he's trying to put together. So that's a book coming out. So when I'll get that info. I'll share it when I'm able to go look that up. It'll take me a little bit to find that. So, Yeah, research is good. Yep. It's good conversation going on. I'm not reading. I'm just skimming it and enjoy the Amplified. Yeah, Amplified's uh, approach is to try to take all of the meaning in the original language and convey it into the English, because sometimes a word in another language, if you just translate it word for word, it doesn't carry all of the meaning of everything behind it. So that's one reason there's different versions. Some are trying to be word for word, idea for idea, different approaches. So, Eugene, looks like you've got a lot of knowledge. That's good. So glad to have you here. But back to our text then. So we've got justice carried out on them, and now we're going to go in a different direction. So the Israelites said to Gideon, "Rule over us, you, your sons, and your grandsons, because you have saved us from the hand of Midian." But Gideon told them, "I will not rule over you, nor will my sons rule over you. The Lord will rule over you." And he said, "I do have one request, that each of you give me an earring from your share of the plunder." It was the custom of the Ishmaelites to wear gold earrings. They answered, "We'll be glad to give them." So they spread out a garment, and each of them threw a ring from their plunder onto it. The weight of the gold rings, he asked, came to 1,700 shekels. Let's see if that gives me a note. 43 pounds of gold, or 20 kilos. Not counting the ornaments, the pendants, and the purple garment worn by the kings of the Midianites, or the chains that were around the camel's neck. Remember, it said he took those. Gideon made the gold into an ephod, which he placed in Ophrah, his town. All Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and his family. So, this is a weird thing. He has good intentions. He says, "No, I'm not going to rule. I'm not going to be your ruler. We're not going to establish a kingship. I was called by God. I did a goal. I did a thing, and I'm done. But, hey, if you want to honor me, I'll let you honor me by giving me part of your plunder. I'll just ask for a ring. That's it. Small, just an earring. Nothing big. Just give me an earring, and that's it." But that added up to a lot. And then it listed some other plunder. So he takes that gold and he makes it into an ephod. Let's look that up. Just, I don't want, so Judges 8. Okay. Where does it say ephod? Find ephod 27. Okay. This here, if you haven't been here before, is Blue Letter Bible, which it has a tool here to pull up word for word in the original language. So I can then go look up that word and get more insight into it. It's not always the most helpful. Oh, there it is. Ephod is a priestly garment, shoulder cape or mantle, outer garment, worn by an ordinary priest and made of white stuff. That's a funny description. Worn by the high priest, more costly, woven of gold, blue, purple, scarlet, and linen threads, provided with shoulder pieces and a breastpiece of like material, ornaments with gems and gold. Let me see if I can just look up ephod and see if we get a photo of one. Oh, I spelled it wrong. There we go. So this, yeah, you pull that one up. So this right here on the top there on his chest, that would be the ephod that's being talked about there. So just wanted to make sure we knew what we were talking about there. So he makes one of those, and then he puts it on display, and then people start worshiping the ephod instead of worshiping God. Remember, in our story last time, he tore down all of the Baal worship and all the Asherah poles in the middle of the night. Now he's put this up, and people start worshiping this instead. So, oh, yes, interesting. Justice is not always the same thing as fairness. I'm not going to go down that, but yeah, that's an interesting point. An ephod is a sacred artifact and usually worn by high priest in worship. Well, it's worn by all priests. They have different levels of what they look like, how ornamented they are. And yes, the high priest is going to have a really good one. Oh, thanks. I'm glad that image helped. I just want to make sure we knew what we were talking about here. So it's a garment. He makes a garment with gold, but you can see in the description they often have that. So it gets worshipped. So it becomes, it says, a snare for Gideon. We've looked at that in regards to a couple other places in Scripture where when we were going through Joshua, it said the people weren't all driven out and some were left as a snare for the people to see would they serve God and continue to worship him, or would they turn aside, and it became a snare for them. So we've seen that language before. It entraps you into something that in some ways it itself not a bad thing, but it's what it leads to. So thus Midian was subdued before the Israelites and did not raise its head again during Gideon's lifetime. The land had peace 40 years. If you haven't been here for Judges, this is what it's going to often say. It will have peace, and it'll list the length of time it had peace for. At the beginning, it will say, and they were in bondage, or whatever descriptor it'll use. They were oppressed, whatever it is, and it'll say for the number of years before the judges raised up. So Jerubbaal, son of Joash, went back home to live. He had 70 sons of his own, for he had many wives. His concubine, who lived in Shechem, also bore him a son, whom he named Abimelech. Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. 70 wives. Dude, what are you doing? That's all I gotta say. Dude, seriously. No sooner had Gideon died than the Israelites again prostituted themselves to the Baals. Now it's using this word of prostituted when it means worshipped, because it's selling their souls to them. So that's interesting, a way to describe it, I think. They set up Baal-berith as their god, and did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the hands of all their enemies on every side. They also failed to show any loyalty to the family of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, in spite of all the good things he had done for them. So you've got neglect of God happening, and this is the pattern that happens in Judges. They neglect God after the ruler, the judge, is there. In their lifetime, they follow. When they die, they stop following. So Abimelech. So we're going to look at his son here next. So Miss Jellybean says you usually use King James Version because you like the Old English, but for Bible study, use other versions. Yeah, ukulele. They were following the ruler, not God. Yeah, they saw Gideon as the reason for the victory, not God as the reason for the victory. So that's not a good thing. Yeah. That leads into what you were mentioning in preview of a devotional that you're planning to come up, where within the church, we often elevate leaders above God, or worship leaders above God at times, feel they can do no wrong, feel they are doing no wrong, and therefore we don't hold them accountable in the way they should be, and they also don't let themselves be held accountable because, well, here look at what Gideon could have done. They wanted to set him up as king. That he could have taken that and done it. He was wise enough not to do that. However, he created this ephod, and they worshipped it. He had 70 wives. I mean, so he took advantage of his power and position and prestige to have 70 wives. I'm not saying he took advantage with the wealth, because I'm thinking a little earring of their plunder is not taken advantage of. But he certainly took advantage, I think, in the multiplying wives to himself. Because when we found him, he was hiding in the wine press, threshing out wheat. He was not going to be on the list of any young ladies who were looking to marry because he was so prestigious. Did he know all their names? Yeah, good question. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say 70 wives? It was 70 sons. I'm sorry. No, not 70 wives. I just realized I said that the wrong way. He had 70 sons, for he had many wives. It doesn't tell us how many wives, but he has 70 kids. So let me clarify. I misspoke. I meant he had many wives, 70 kids, but 70 still. To have 70 kids, you had to have, well, let's just say, if each wife had 7 kids, which would not be unreasonable, and which would be a good average, that's 10 wives. So maybe he had a dozen wives. I don't know. Still, dude. Well, not likely that he had 70 wives. They probably would have had more than one child. It would be very unlikely that there'd be that few kids if he had that many wives. But we're digressing, so let's get back to his one son we're going to look at, Abimelech. And I recently watched a video describing Abimelech's name. Not this Abimelech. There's another one. And I want to see if this has the different descriptions of what Abimelech means, or if this is an older one. Melech is my father, or my father is king. Yeah. So, and actually, there's some grammatical things that might be an issue going on with there as well. But just look at that for a second. So Melech is father, or my father is king, or my father is Melech, could also be, because Melech could be the name of the father, not his father being king. So anyway, interesting that he doesn't choose to be king, but there's a possibility that he names his son, my father is king. So Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to his mother's brothers in Shechem and said to them and to all his mother's clans, ask all the citizens of Shechem, which is better for you, to have all 70 of Jerubbaal's sons rule over you, or just one man? Remember, I am your flesh and blood. When the brothers repeated all this to the citizens of Shechem, they were inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, he is related to us. They gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of Baal-berith, and Abimelech used it to hire reckless scoundrels who became his followers. So, mercenaries, or thugs, however you want to look at it. He went to his father's home and Orphra, and on one stone murdered his 70 brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, escaped by hiding. Then all the citizens of Shechem, Beth Millo, gathered beside the great tree at the pillar in Shechem to crown Abimelech king. My father is father. No, not quite, but yes, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, dude, you killed them all to get your claim to the throne. Okay, not that that's an unusual thing. That happens within palace after Palace, or when we go forward, when a new dynasty in the northern kingdom comes in, they wipe out all of the people of the former, so there's no claims to the throne against your claim. That's common, not just Middle East, but whenever there's monarchies, you want to shore up your claim to the throne. So when Jotham was told about this, he climbed up on top of Mount Gerizim and shouted to them, "Listen to me, citizens of Shechem, so that God may listen to you." One day the trees went out to anoint a king for themselves. They said to the olive tree, "Be our king." But the olive tree answered, "Should I give up my oil, by which both gods and humans are honored, to hold sway over the trees?" Next, the tree said to the fig, "Come, be our king." But the fig tree replied, "Should I give up my fruit, so good and so sweet, to hold sway over the trees?" Then the tree said to the vine, "Come, be our king." But the vine said, "Should I give up my wine, which cheers both humans and gods, to hold sway over the trees?" Finally, all the trees said to the thorn bush, "Come, be our king." The thorn bush said to the trees, "If you really want to anoint me king over you, come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, then let fire come out of the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon." Have you acted honorably in good faith by making Abimelech king? Have you been fair to Jerubbaal and his family? Have you treated him as he deserves? Remember that my father fought for you and risked his life to rescue you from the hand of Midian. But today you have revolted against my father's family. You have murdered his 70 sons on a single stone and have made Abimelech, the son of his female slave, king over the citizens of Shechem, because he is related to you. So have you acted honorably and in good faith toward Jerubbaal and his family today? If you have, may Abimelech be your joy, and may you be his too. But if you have not, let fire come out from Abimelech and consume you, the citizens of Shechem, Beth Milo, and let fire come out from you, the citizens of Shechem and Beth Milo, and consume Abimelech. Then Jotham fled, escaping to Beer. Remember, Beer is well, is what it means. So when you see all the names with Beer, it's a well of something. Here it's just well. And he lived there because he was afraid of his brother Abimelech. I'm just going to pause. This is a fantastic story. This is a fantastic parable. I mean, look at this. The trees want a king, and so they ask the olive trees, like, I produce olives. There's a reason for me to do that. I don't need to be the king of the trees. He asks the fig tree, and he says, I produce figs. He asks the vine, I produce wine. So all of these produce something, doesn't need to be their king. And they ask a thorn bush. I mean, getting down to the bottom of the barrel there, buddy. And that's part of his point. This is not the kind of person that should be elevated to king. You're doing it simply because his mom's related to you. That's it. After Abimelech had governed Israel 3 years, God stirred up animosity against Abimelech. Remember his thing, if fire comes out. And the citizens of Shechem, so that they acted treacherously against Abimelech. God did this in order that the crimes against Jerubbaal's 70 sons, the shedding of their blood, might be avenged on their brother Abimelech and on the citizens of Shechem, who had helped him murder his brothers. In opposition to him, these citizens of Shechem set men on the hilltops to ambush and rob everyone who passed by, and this was reported to Abimelech. It's a weird way to tell you. You get some weird stuff here in Judges. I'm just saying, but this is how they're dealing with injustice and trying to counter things. So they attack him by attacking visitors and passersby. Now Gaal, son of Ebed, moved with his clan into Shechem, and its citizens put their confidence in him. After they had gone out into the fields and gathered the grapes and trodden them, they held a festival in the temple of their God. While they were eating and drinking, they cursed Abimelech. Then Gaal, son of Ebed, said, "Who is Abimelech, and why should we Shechemites be subject to him? Isn't he Jerubbaal's son, and isn't Zubal his deputy? Serve the family of Hamor, Shechem's father. Why should we serve Abimelech? If only this people were under my command, then I would get rid of him. I would say to Abimelech, call out your whole army." Okay, just a grammatical thought there. So so here you have a new guy moves to town after they're already upset with him. And this guy's like, who is this guy? How did he become king? What's going on here? He stirs them all up. When Zubal, the governor of the city, heard what Gaal, son of Ebed, said, he was very angry. Under cover, he sent messengers to Abimelech, saying, Gaal, son of Ebed, and his clan have come to Shechem and are stirring up the city against you. Now then, during the night, you and your men should come and lie in wait in the fields. In the morning at sunrise, advance against the city. When Gaal and his men come out against you, seize the opportunity to attack them. So Abimelech and all his troops set out by night and took up concealed positions near Shechem in 4 companies. Now Gaal, son of Ebed, had gone out and was standing at the entrance of the city gate, just as Abimelech and his troops came out from their hiding place. When Gaal saw them, he said to Zebul, "Look, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains." Zebul replied, "You mistake the shadows of the mountains for men." But Gaal spoke up again, "Look, people are coming down from the central hill, and a company is coming from the direction of the diviner's tree." Remember, we're not going to talk about it right here, but there's lots of trees mentioned all throughout this section. That's where they know things by trees. Trees are sources of life because they need to have water to exist. So then Zebul said to him, "Where is your big talk now? You who said, 'Who is Abimelech, that we should be subject to him? Aren't these the men you ridiculed? Go out and fight them." So Gaal led out the citizens of Shechem and fought Abimelech. Abimelech chased him all the way to the entrance of the gate, and many were killed as they fled. Then Abimelech stayed in Aramah, and Zebul drove Gaal and his clan out of Shechem. The next day, the people of Shechem went out into the fields, and this was reported to Abimelech. So he took his men, divided them in 3 companies, and set an ambush in the fields. When he saw the people coming out of the city, he rose to attack them. Abimelech and the companies with him rushed forward to the positions at the entrance of the city gates. Then 2 companies attacked those in the field and struck them down. All that day, Abimelech pressed his attack against the city until he had captured it and killed its people. Then he destroyed the city and scattered salt over it. All right, I'm going to get a comment here and then from the chat and then make a few comments. They attacked his kingdom, Trombone says, because Abimelech is only as much as his kingdom. Therefore, the best way to attack him and his purpose, honor, etc., is by attacking his kingdom. Very good point. Yes. Also, you can see here, there's trying to draw him out and engage him. You are often stronger when you stay together and you stay in your compound. And especially if you're up walled cities. That kind of tactic is really good. Just think of any medieval thing where you have people trying to fight the castle. You can pour and shoot and throw all kinds of things down from the castle, from the walls. You have the high ground on everybody attacking. You can see them coming from a long way off, and there's no protection around them. But if you leave the city gates and now you go out into the fields, now you're in the open and you're not protected. So when he's doing the attacking here, notice he sends one company to the city gates to keep anybody from coming out, and the other two companies to go out in the field and start attacking. So we have the thorn bush with the fire, and the fire on the trees, and the going back and forth. And so we have the attacks on Abimelech, and now Abimelech attacks on the city, and the going back and forth. They're destroying each other, which is what was said was likely to happen when they chose a thorn bush to be their king. So, oh, and the scattered salt, I wanted to mention or look at that. So, Jeopardy time. Why are they throwing salt down here? What would be the purpose of throwing salt? They destroy the city and scatter salt all over it. Maybe you've seen things where you throw salt down because you want to keep evil spirits away. We'll say that's not what they're doing here. They're not trying to keep evil spirits from rising from the dead. No, nothing of that nature. They're scattering salt here on this city. When it says the city and scattered salt over it, it's going to be, yeah, exactly. The salt absorbed stuff. Well, what it would have, well, how much salt do you go put? Salt purifies, preserves. Those are good thoughts, but they're putting it on the city, so it's not really preserving or purifying the city. Yeah, Jekyll Jason has it. Yeah, you can't grow food. Hey, didn't see you come in, friend. Good to have you here. Thanks for being here. Yeah, so, yeah, they can't grow food. Go put salt on your garden and see how well your plants do. Your plants are going to wither if you throw enough salt out there, especially if they're already growing. If you throw the salt out there where nothing is growing, there's too much salt. It's not going to be able to grow anything in that area. So what they're doing is they are preventing this city from being rebuilt from the standpoint of they won't be able to grow food here. So they're destroying the city forever. That's, or at least for generations. Salt eventually could be absorbed, but go look at the Dead Sea. It's filled with salt. There's not plants living there. Go look at desert regions where there's lots of salt, or that we have salt flats out in Utah. There's nothing growing there. It's too salty. Now, those are extremes, but that helps to show that you can't grow anything if there's salt. Hey, thanks, Jason. Didn't see you come in here. Thanks, friend, for being here. So we're continuing this. So on hearing this, the citizens in the tower of Shechem went into the stronghold of the temple of El-Berith. When Abimelech heard that they had assembled there, he and all his men went up Mount Zalmon. He took an axe and cut off some branches, which he lifted to his shoulders. He ordered the men with him, "Quick, do what you have seen me do." So all the men cut branches and followed Abimelech. They piled them against the stronghold and set it on fire with the people still inside. So all the people in the tower of Shechem, about 1,000 men and women, also died. So, yep, the fire is now happening. So we had that in the parable, and now fire is what's happening. Next, Abimelech went to Thebes and besieged it and captured it. Inside the city, however, was a strong tower to which all the men and women, all the people of the city had fled. They had locked themselves in and climbed up on the tower roof. Abimelech went to the tower and attacked it. But as he approached the entrance to the tower to set it on fire, a woman dropped an upper millstone on his head and cracked his skull. These are the little things that I just enjoy at times reading through Judges. These just little quirky, the guy looks victorious, and yeah, you know, you drop something from a tower and it's going to injure people. A millstone. What is a millstone? it's for grinding grain. You're going to do your milling on it. So it's going to be a sizable thing because you want to have a bunch of grain on it. So this is going to take some effort to lift and move. And she pushes it out the window and it crushes his head. I crush your head. Hurriedly, he called to his armor bearer. So he's apparently not that injured. He's able to talk. Wow. Draw your sword and kill me so that they can't say a woman killed me. How does he know a woman pushed it out? Just, maybe he saw her. Maybe he looked up and watched it. So his servant ran him through and he died. When the Israelites saw that Abimelech was dead, they went home. Hey, Marin Reno, thanks for the subscription. Thanks for being here, friend. Yes, you should clip that and put it in it so people coming and want to know what my stream's about is me laughing at people's misery when they get their comeuppance in the Old Testament. Yes, me laughing at a woman throwing a millstone on a guy's head and crushing it. That's a good clip to put out there. However, here's the summary of it. Thus, God repaid the wickedness that Abimelech had done to his father by murdering his 70 brothers. God also made the people of Shechem pay for all of their wickedness. The curse of Jotham, son of Jerubbaal, came on them. So there we go. It says it's going to happen. They're going to be repaid. Everything ends up repaid. They end up giving justice to each other. Now we've got a couple of short ones. So these are ones I don't know, because you can see here's Tola, and then there's Jair before we get to Jephthah. So let's see. These are going to just be little short ones, a verse or two. So if you've never heard of these, don't be surprised. I don't remember them. What's going on here? So after the time of Abimelech, a man of Issachar named Tola, son of Puah, the son of Dodo, rose to save Israel. He lived in Shamir in the hill country of Ephraim. He led Israel 23 years. Then he died and was buried at Shamir. That's it. No great stories, just his name got recorded and what family he's from. He was followed by Jair of Gilead, who led Israel 22 years. He had 30 sons who rode 30 donkeys. They controlled 30 towns in Gilead, which to this day are called Havoth Jair. When Jair died, he was buried in Kamon. Settlements of Jair. Okay. Hovaoth is a settlement. Okay. I just want to go look up a couple of names here just because when they see names that sound bad in English, I like to look them up in Greek or Hebrew so I don't just think that, Dodo is a bad name. His beloved. Okay, so if you call someone Dodo, you're saying that they are beloved. So, yes, absolutely, ukulele. He led 23 years and then died as a success compared to those others. Yeah, absolutely. So Dodo means his beloved. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm in the wrong spot. Okay. Puah, splendid. Okay. Tola, since we're here. Worm. So there's your funny one, worm. The firstborn of Issachar, the Tolaites. Okay, so there's Tolaites. So there's the worm people. Oh, okay, this is what happens when I spend time looking up. I try to look up Dodo so I don't have that stuck in my head, and I find somebody named Worm. All right, so we're in 10. How far are we going today? I think it's 11, isn't it? Yeah, it's 11. So we got 2 more chapters to go. All right, so Jephthah. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. They served the Baals and the Ashtoreths and the gods of Aram, the gods of Sidon, the gods of Moab, the gods of the Ammonites, and the gods of the Philistines. And because the Israelites forsook the Lord and no longer served him, he became angry with them. He sold them into the hands of the Philistines and the Amorites, who that year scattered and crushed them. For 18 years, they oppressed all the Israelites on the east side of the Jordan in Gilead, the land of the Amorites. The Ammonites also crossed the Jordan to fight against Judah, Benjamin, and Ephraim. Israel was in great distress. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord, "We have sinned against you, forsaking our God, and served the Baals." So again, we have the pattern. There was good. They were followed as long as there was the ruler. We had 2 good rulers there after we had Abimelech problem. And now we have no ruler for a period of time and 18 years of oppression. Then they cry out. I don't know why it takes a long time to cry out. You know, you got to be oppressed for 18 years before you cry out. I'm thinking I'm going to do that a little sooner. But I say that on this side of it with hindsight. So the Lord replied, "When the Egyptians, the Amorites, the Ammonites, the Philistines, the Sidonites, the Amalekites, and the Moabites," I don't know that one. Midianites. Okay. "Oppressed you, and you cried to me for help. Did I not save you from their hands? But you have forsaken me and served other gods, so I will no longer save you. Go and cry out to the gods you have chosen. Let them save you when you are in trouble." Uh-oh. Uh-oh. But the Israelites said to the Lord, "We have sinned. Do with us whatever you think is best, but please rescue us now." Then they got rid of the foreign gods among them and served the Lord, and he could bear Israel's misery no longer. So look at this. They take the action to get rid of it. Normally what we've seen happen is the new leader comes in that's going to rescue them, and the leader does that work. Here we have the other direction. They cry out for God to rescue. He says, "I'm not going to." So what do? They get rid of all of the things of serving other gods and serve the Lord. Then God says, "Okay, now I'll listen to you." When the Ammonites were called to arms and camped in Gilead, the Israelites assembled and camped at Mizpah. The leaders of the people of Gilead said to each other, "Whoever will take the lead in the attack, the Ammonites will be head over all who live in Gilead." Okay, so whoever goes first, they're going to get to rule this area. So that's what the Ammonites decide to do. Okay, sorry. When they're going to go against the Ammonites, the Gileadites said that. I might have said that the wrong way. So they're going against the Ammonites, and they're saying, "We don't have a leader. Whoever wants to be the leader, you go first." So Jephthah, the Gilead, was a mighty warrior. His father was Gilead. There we go. His mother was a prostitute. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Not the only one in Scripture that we have that from, but interesting. So Gilead's wife also bore him sons, and when they were grown up, they drove Jephthah away. "You are not going to get any inheritance in our family," they said, "because you are the son of another woman." Okay. So he's an illegitimate son in the family, so he's driven out. So Jephthah fled from his brothers and settled in the land of Tob, where a gang of scoundrels gathered around him and followed him. I've already looked up enough words, or I'd go look up what scoundrels is. Probably not going to add anything. Sometime later, when the Ammonites were fighting against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from the land of Tob. "Come," they said, "be our commander so we can fight the Ammonites." Jephthah said to them, Didn't you hate me and drive me from my father's house? Why do you come to me now when you're in trouble?" The elders of Gilead said to him, "Nevertheless, we are turning to you now." So it doesn't matter. We know that. You know that. We're here now. We need you. So just come on, buddy. "Come with us to fight the Ammonites, and you will be head over all of us who live in Gilead." So you have the promise to do it. Now we can't find anybody. I was going to say, let's get Mikey. Hey, Mikey, he'll like it, but this is not quite the same. That's trying cereal. This is leading people. So let's go get him. He'll do it. Jephthah answered, "Suppose you take me back to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gives them to me. Will I really be your head?" So, yeah, I'm not buying this. You need to give me proof of this. I need a guarantee. The elders of Gilead replied, "The Lord is our witness. We will certainly do as we say." So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and commander over them. And he repeated all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. So I need proof. They said, "God's our witness." That was good enough for him. So then Jephthah sent messengers to the Ammonite king with the question, "What do you have against me that you have attacked my country?" The king of the Ammonites answered Jephthah's message. "When Israel came up out of Egypt, they took away my land from the Arnon to Jabbok, all the way to the Jordan. Now give it back peaceably." Jephthah sent messengers to the Ammonite king, saying, This is what Jephthah says. "Israel did not take the land of Moab or the land of the Ammonites, but when they came up out of Egypt, Israel went through the wilderness to the Red Sea and on to Kadesh. Then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, 'Give us permission to go through your country.' But the king of Edom would not listen. They sent also to the king of Moab, and he refused. So Israel stayed at Kadesh. Next, they traveled through the wilderness." Now notice, he knows all their history. He's reciting this. "Next, they traveled through the wilderness, skirted the lands of Edom and Moab, passed along the eastern side of the country of Moab, and camped on the other side of Arnon. They did not enter the territory of Moab, for the Arnon was its border. Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who ruled in Heshbon, and said to him, 'Let us pass through your country to our own place.' Sihon, however, did not trust Israel to pass through his territory. He mustered all his troops and encamped at Jahaz and fought with Israel. Then the Lord, the God of Israel, gave Sihon and his whole army into Israel's hands, and they defeated them. Israel took over all the land of the Amorites who lived in that country, capturing all of it from the Arnon to the Jabbok, the Jabbok, and from the desert to the Jordan. Now, since the Lord, the God of Israel, has driven the Amorites out before his people Israel, what right have you to take it over? Will you not take what your God Chemosh gave you? Likewise, whatever the Lord our God has given us, we will possess. Are you any better than Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever quarrel with Israel or fight with them? For 300 years Israel occupied Heshbon, Aroer, the surrounding settlements, and all the towns along the Arnon. Why did you retake them during that time? Why didn't you retake them during that time? I have not wronged you, but you are doing me wrong by waging war against me. Let the Lord, the judge, decide the dispute this day between Israel and the Ammonites. So, interesting. Not sure what that was. So he's first action, writes a letter, gets a reply, writes a letter. So ask, why are you coming? Okay? Well, let me tell you the truth about things. Maybe you don't know your history. Let me tell you this. So the king of Ammon, however, paid no attention to the message Jephthah sent him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Jephthah. He crossed Gilead, and Manasseh passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from there he advanced against the Ammonites. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, if you give the Ammonites into my hand, whatever comes out the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. Oh no, I hate this story. Just saying, I hate this story. I was saying I liked stories earlier. This one I'm going to say no. No, I don't. So. Ukulele, your spelling got flagged there. That's what it was. I'm just reading the bullying message. We never set out to conquer you. We asked nicely first, and you gave us no choice, was what you were trying to say. And that's not exactly what it thinks you said. So, yes, but he's doing the history. We didn't go in. We didn't attack. You attacked us. Then we were able to take it over, and that's what happened. And here's the history. But he just ignores it. So, but now we have him making this vow. Now, whatever returns I'll devote to the Lord is a great thought. But then he goes on and says, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. So, then Jephthah went over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave them into his hands. He devastated 20 towns from Aroer to the vicinity of Minnith, as far as Abel Keramim. Thus Israel subdued Ammon. When Jephthah returned to his home in Mizpah, who should come out to meet him but his daughter, dancing to the sound of timbrels? She was an only child. Except for her, he had neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and cried out, "Oh no, my daughter! You have brought me down, and I am devastated. I made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break." "My father," she replied, "you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me just as you promised. Now that the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the Ammonites, but grant me this one request," she said. "Give me 2 months to roam the hills and weep with my friends, because I will never marry." "You may go," he said, and he let her go for 2 months. She and her friends went into the hills and wept because she would never marry. After 2 months, she returned to her father, and he did to her as he had vowed, and she was a virgin. From this comes the Israelite tradition that each year the young women of Israel go out for 4 days to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite. Gileadite. It's a weird word. Yeah, I hate that piece of it. It's like, what? And yes, you made a vow, but yeah, feeling like something else he could have done something, and maybe he did, and we just don't have that. He pleads with it, or it's just such a matter of honor and a vow to God that you don't break it. But I like how he honors her by letting her go for 2 months and hang out with her friends in the hill country and weep and all of that. Yes, word your vows very carefully. Yeah, this is one of those things where, when you make a wish and they're like, oh, so you wish for this and it doesn't happen the way you think. Yeah, same would be with vows. Like, he could have just stopped at, I'm going to dedicate whatever comes out of the house to God. Didn't have to say, and I'm going to sacrifice it. the first non-important servant who came out of the door. But could have been an animal too. He said the first thing, so it could have been an animal that could be sacrificed. There were other ways he could have made a vow on something else. Let's just put it at that. So, but all right, so there we have it. That's our reading in Judges. Like I said, if you think that the Bible is boring, just spend a little time reading through the book of Judges. I can't see how